It is so nice to be back. Yes, indeed it is. Well, I mean, from a certain point of view, it is nice to be back. Yes, here we are. The E-Chapel is open. It's Friday night. It's about 7 o'clock. And why the hell not? Of course, it's first full service in 3 weeks. So it's nice to be back from the sense of that I'm not otherwise occupied doing some crazy adventure or other. We're having a nice quiet Easter bank holiday weekend here in the UK, and of course because there is no reason why I shouldn't be doing a Friday service, I am doing a Friday service. I am Eno M Koney, and this is the SWDP E-Chapel, open for a service for the 18th of April, 1 of 2 in the season of Discord, Anno Domini Nostra 2025. So there we are. We have placed ourselves in time and indeed in space. And of course, the thing that we want to do now is look at the disclaimer, which I have truncated. You can read the whole thing if you want with your eyes right now. But otherwise, I'm just going to say all acts of Discordianism portrayed herein are for spiritual entertainment purposes only. For Nord. There we go. You see, the rest of it is there, but I'm not going to do it. We've been playing around with the format for the last few weeks, and that's what we've come up with. And by we, I mean me, and by me, I mean me. So there we go. Order of service tonight. It's back to normal. Of course, we will have Deep Thoughts. Kandar, a place for you to really ask those little niggling questions that have been on your mind regarding the spiritual path, always known as Discordianism. We will have a brand new Face of Eris tonight, a reflective tarot moment, all of which, of course, leads up to the weekly sacrament, which we will take together at the close of the service. My dog has come to join us. Have you decided to join us on the Discordian path, doggo? No, you're just looking for food. Well, there's no food in here. Well, there's sacraments, but I don't think you really want a metaphorical hot dog. I don't know, maybe he does. So there we go. That is what's coming up. Obviously, somewhere in that order of service will be inserted 23. It's coming. Yeah, so we can't avoid it. We can't look away from it. 23 is here, which does remind me, in fact, that I got a comment to one of my services, my birthday service. In fact, I got a comment, and I meant to pull it up before the podcast, before the service, but I did not. So I'm just going to have to go and get it now. It's quite easy to find. It's the only one we've had in a while. Here we go, in there, and then down to there, and to the there we go, one comment into that, right. Oh, for God's sake. Right. Weird how it says that. That doesn't matter. Anyway. Right, okay, so Some of All Noobs 10, a couple of days ago, put on my birthday message. Hail Eris, congrats on age. I mean, I was just sitting there and it hit me, so, fair enough. But that's generally how I age. I don't consciously do it. It just kind of flows through me, and happens. April 1 of 2 is a great time to age another period of time. I mean, some might say it's arbitrary. It's just the fact that that's what's happening. The goddess transmitted that that's what this period of time is going to be called. It is kind of unique because, as I said, it's not often that you know what you're doing month name wise for 61 days in a row, but here we are. 50 in binary is 110010 according to Number Empire. I mean, according to binary counting, so cool. Remarkably, 5 binary digits to create the 10th set of 5s. So there we are. Also, according to Number Empire, 50 in hex is 32, which is 23 reversed. So many things to remark on. When will I have the time? I don't know. When will you? 23 in hex is Octothorpe, and there he is, Thor, hiding in all things. If you're into such stuff. Fnord and such like, Fnord to you too. And so on and so forth. Much ado about it. which is the excellent non sequitur, bizarre conclusion that we like to see to a comment to a Discordian service. So thank you very much, Some of All Noobs 10, and hail Eris. Hail Eris indeed. So there we go. Cool. So that's the post bag dealt with. Let us move on. Let's move on already in the service to the deepest of deep thoughts. Season of Discord. Hail Saint Gafrik. I didn't really want to tie down the subject of tonight's deep thought because the face of Eris upcoming is pretty revealing in that arena. We will be having some thought on that. So I'll just waffle on about stuff for a couple of minutes. But we have to, of course, remember that it is upcoming. The 24th of April is the actual... it's like the sort of Queen's official birthday, except the Queen's dead, so the King's official birthday. I don't know what the hell goes on with royal families having an official birthday and another birthday. I wouldn't be able to tell you anything about that. But what I'm saying is that the 24th is next Thursday, which is fine and all. But then, of course, next Friday, being the 25th, there will be a service in the afternoon. And if you recall the beginning of the season of Discord, Saint Gafrik made himself known, but also said he didn't really feel that he wanted us to do anything in particular. So hopefully, on the actual day of St. Gafrik, he is an enjoyer. You can enjoy some enjoyment time on the 24th. There was an intimation, there was a vibe that St. Gafrik was into games, and I don't mean like psychological games, not mind games, not anything like that. No. Just games, normal games, card games, video games. And for that reason, I am going to try and carve out a little bit of time on Monday, the 21st, Easter Monday, for those of you that love that bank holiday stuff, to just do a gaming stream here on Twitch. If you're watching this on YouTube, then not here on YouTube, over on Twitch, twitch.tv/Eno M Koney. You'll see it at the end. It's in the end board. So, but it doesn't hurt to tell people things about, 7 or 8 times before it finally goes in. So I'm not guilty about doing that, saying that. It's information. And the problem with information is that sometimes the information is not sticky. It's emitted, but it doesn't stick. And then people are like, oh, what was that information? It didn't stick. And I have noticed that over the course of the last few weeks, my beard has swept over to one side, not that side, to that side, which is right sweeping. Oh my gosh, my beard is right leaning. I'll have to ask it who it voted for in the beard elections. That's terribly concerning. I'm terribly concerning. Imagine that. Having a right-leaning beard. Imposing tariffs on my face. All that kind of stuff. But there we are. So, gaming stream here. It will be an official Discordian. It'll be sort of weird. It'll be like a service, but we obviously won't do a sacrament because that's Friday night's thing. It'll just be a service in which we play a game to honour Saint Gafrik. All hail Saint Gafrik. And then on the Thursday, we can all reflect personally on the way that we do. In fact, next Friday's service is very likely to be how did you celebrate St. Gafrik? Now, St. Gafrik hasn't asked for us to eat any kinds of special foods. He hasn't asked for us to enslave any plants. He hasn't asked for us to exchange gifts in any way. He hasn't asked for us to do anything but enjoy. So we shall take that vibe on, and that will happen next Thursday. So there we are. What else have we got going on? I have got a very important, well, not very important, but the face of Eris this week is very clear. Very clear. She came to me in a car travelling towards the Welsh airport at Cardiff. And the vibe was very strong in the room while myself and a colleague were given a revelation. But we shall talk about that in due course. I think, to be fair, that is about as deep as the thoughts get. for this service. So I will open the floor. It is Kandar time. I'm not expecting much. Sometimes a cue emerges from the mists. I have been reminded several times on this idea with the Q and the A. There is, famously, in the first couple of episodes of the television series from the 1960s, The Prisoner, a sign on a wall that says, questions are a burden for others, answers a prison for oneself. Indeed, this leads me on to the endorsement of that particular artifact of dramatic entertainment, made in 1967, pretty timeless, to be honest. I watched recently a sort of making of retrospective about the series, and they were talking about how the lead actor, sort of creator of the show, Patrick McGoohan, ended up in some bad places because of his artistic commitment to the particular bit of The Prisoner about a mysterious, nameless man who awakes on a prison, in a weird sort of prison camp, very weird prison camp. Not really what you'd think of as a prison camp, but the series establishes that it is, and is harangued for 17 episodes about the answer to the question of why he resigned his job. A question which he never answers. And the whole thing is shot through with bizarre iconography and strange mind games and things that shift. They metamorphose from one thing to another. Issues of trust are brought in on a weekly basis. And for such a chaotic artifact, it becomes apparent he paid a large toll, in the sense of him taking on that anaristic organizational energy to push the artifact into existence. And it is a great topic for meditation on the fact that if you go out seeking to create chaos, you will invoke order. And if you go out invoking order very strongly, then you will create chaos. And that's how the universe works. And Eris came and told us this and liberated our minds through this very simple principle that we are free, because from order comes chaos and from chaos comes order, in a never-ending foam of human perceivable phenomena that rides atop a great boiling ocean of ultimate chaos, which is why we're all here. Hail Eris. So nobody asked a question, and so that was an answer to a question that nobody asked, which is the best kind of answer that one can give. And of course, seeing as the floor has now been open for a good 5 minutes, and it is evident that you, my asynchronous viewers on the YouTube, for which this very special message is intended, please like, please subscribe, all that stuff that people do with YouTube videos. Do that. Do it now. So that is a message for you, and good job, because nobody else is here. Nobody is here live. They have better things to do on this Discord Friday in April than sit and listen to a crazy old pastor who has finally I had pasta for tea, actually. It was very delicious. Crazy old pastor just do his duty and carve off this little slice of Friday for everyone to enjoy, and of course to enjoy the sacrament at the end of the service. But there is necessarily a need for a build up to that, so that is where we are. But we are going to head on into the faces of Eris, and I have remembered this week to furnish you with the clue on the first page of Faces of Eris. Now, I realise, looking at it now, that I could have employed the use of commas to clear it up, but I have not. It's a bit of a cryptic crossword puzzle, and in fact exemplifies everything I detest and revile about cryptic crossword puzzles, because you're not supposed to read it 12 query mark 4. It's meant to be 1 2 query mark 4. The commas should have been there. I should have been clearer, but of course this is an obscure reference. It does make me wonder, because of course it was an in-joke on the popular online news service Slashdot, that when people were being idiotic, they would come up with a plan, which is step 1, do something; step 2, do something else; step 3, question point, and then and then step 4 was profit. So yeah, that was very weird. This week, Eris has come to us in the form of money. So I feel safe in saying that if you are a member of the congregation who is here right now, Eris has blessed you with abundance. Because I know no one's here. So that's fine. All you have to do is hook into the vibe. Say hi to me. And she probably won't bless you with anything, because that's not how she works. Blessings, curses, this is not the currency. Haha, I've brought it back to currency, which the Erisian way trades within. No. But yes, as I said, I was driving towards Cardiff Airport with a colleague, and he was bemoaning the fact that he was confident in his contribution to the goodness in the world, as indeed am I. That is why we're, colleagues and whatnot. But how he had nothing to show for it monetarily. And just out of nowhere, the goddess came into my mind and brought us to this, which is the currency paradox, which is that all money essentially is inauthentic and ultimately meaningless. Yeah, that having a bunch of money is meaningless. And I know what you're going to say. It's nice to have the problem where you've got loads of money, but it clearly isn't, because every person who we've identified world famous for having a lot of money is a complete lunatic. And you can kind of see. I mean, this is something I think people are often afraid to say, but you can see with people who have vast amounts of filthy lucre that their skin is a little bit like a sort of rubber covering over rot and filth that exists underneath. That the essence of their soul is rotten, degraded, falling apart, disintegrating, but they have, of course, access to money, and money allows them to get, papering, plastering, makeup, whatever it is. It takes that bull by the horns and it allows them to appear, but it is always a sort of waxwork appearance of personhood. Yeah, it's never right. Yeah, people know. People often describe their encounters with people with vast amounts of wealth as being somewhat off. They can say, oh, such and such was a lovely person. Yeah, they don't want to misrepresent that they were not a lovely person. But then at the same time they say, but there was something uncomfortable about interacting with them. It's something about the power of this hollow abundance that they get. What do I mean by this? How am I going to dig deeper into this? The question is, who has time to care? We were discussing how getting paid, getting a fat stack, is a way of, in a transaction, someone, the person giving the money, the payer, as it were, to the payee, substituting having the time to care. If you think about a barter system, where you say, do this for me, and I will give you something that you want. Remember that often in stories about the antagonist, yeah, if you believe in the devil, yeah, those kind of antagonistic, the particularly vicious and pernicious bargains done with an entity who is seen as malignant shall we say, the malignant entity will often bless you with some fat stacks, and in our exchange ask for nothing, just a favour. And the point about the inequity of this is what we shall, for the want of a better term, call the devil understands, is that money is inauthentic and valueless. It's a substitution for having to care about something. You just give someone a fat stack and they go away. You don't need to know anything, because the value, the inherent value of currency is implicit and understood. People will always take a fat stack. You don't need to know why they need it, what they're going to do with it. It is entirely neutral. But in that, it has removed the idea of when the reverse of that, when you've asked for a favour, when you've asked for someone to do something for you, when you are always as the payer of a favour going to have to care about what that favour is. And indeed, in 100% of the stories about that kind of a bargain, what we call a Faustian pact, when the time comes to pay off the favour, the payer is always like, but why do you need me to do that? Nobody asks, but why do you need me to give you a fat stack if they have a fat stack to give? But always when someone calls in a favour, it's like, oh God, this is going to be painful. It hurts the payer of a favour to pay a favour to the person who has bought one. But it doesn't, once the money is gone, it's just not there anymore. You know? It only hurts if you wanted to use that money for something else, but that's your problem. Money is valueless in the fact that it has no engagement. And that's the point where people say, you know, we're going to throw a bunch of money at it. There's kind of an implicit understanding that money is just a thing, then you have a lot of it, and then it becomes a problem to distribute, to disperse those funds. Yeah, that's it. So all you're saying is we've got a problem. If we chuck a bunch of money at it, then the initial problem may seem to dissolve, but actually now you've got a bunch of problems, depending on how big the fat stack is. You might find that I'm guilty of drawing this point out just a little. And of course I am, because I can see and you can see, we can all see that incoming is that moment. We haven't felt it in a while, but what would discord? What would a Friday night? What would a bank holiday in service of a corrupted fertility ritual be without our reminder, our occasional reckoning with that ultimate force, the force that we all know, of course, as 23. Yes, it's here, leaping into the fray, leaping into our lives, dominating our brains. 23 is here. 23 is always here, but sometimes we can, if not ignore, send it to a background 23-esque hum. There is 23 just being 23, you know. And then other times, like now, it's right there. It surrounds us. We are enfolded. 23, we cry into a seeming void, but it isn't a void, it is full. What is it full of? 23. 23 is the question. 23 is the answer. 23 is neither a question nor an answer. 23 is 23. It is eternal, and it is merely 23. A recent internet sensation said in a fake video call while extemporizing, "No man, you got to push it to at least 10,000. And people ridiculed him for that. Maybe rightly, maybe wrongly, who knows. But would they have ridiculed him and said, no mate, you have to push that to exactly 23? That wouldn't have earned ridicule. People would have been awestruck. They would have said, he said 23. This is a guy who knows what the number is. The number is 23. All hail 23. And back now. Back to our fat stack. So here we are. We can go on to another point about this now. Yes. Currency is the square root of nothing at all. As I said, it's a substitutionary concept. Yeah? Like, whoever was... It was indeed an anaristic notion to say, hey, you know, like how, you know, Bob had a pig and he needed to trade the pig to get a thing, but he went to the person who had the thing and they said, I don't want a pig, but I do need one of these, you know, certain other items. I don't know, a ladle. So he went to the, you know, smith and said, have you got a ladle? And he said, yeah, do you need a pig? No, but I do need. And then this whole chain of barter. And people were like very concerned that it was taking a long time to work these barter arrangements out. But the point is that when he said, I need a ladle, he said, why do you need a ladle? And then the guy told him. And then that's how you form these little strands of meaning where you understand the context of other people's lives through trade of that kind. Yeah? You go, I need to sell my pig, and someone who needs to buy a pig, and someone goes, I need to buy a pig, and they drop you the monetary value for the pig, and then they walk off. What do you know about the person who had the money? Nothing, just that they had some money to give, and they wanted a pig. For some reason, that because you just got universally exchangeable currency paper, you don't ask. The criminal, the villainous, absolutely adore currency. Yeah, they adore currency because it has that don't ask, don't tell, like ask me no questions thing. It's the great token that says I don't want to tell you what I'm up to. So it's all going to be done with briefcases full of cash. I mean, if we look at the way that we have culturally enshrined cash and where it becomes important in our story making, that squares away, right? Money is never good. We know this. But then when we have money, we think it is good. It's not. It is the ultimate civilizational MacGuffin. If you center a story around somebody chasing money, or you don't have to explain. People often do over explain. You actually do. If a hero in a story, their object is to get a bunch of money, then you do have to over explain why they want the money. They also tend to have to explain why the other person shouldn't have the money that they're going to steal or acquire, why the large amount of money should come to them, or indeed it is one of those stories, sorry I just knocked the microphone there, or it is one of those stories where someone is in pursuit of money, but they are in fact an anti-hero and you are not expecting them to get away with it. Yeah, the stories about money are not about the money. The money is just a way of saying, here's an item that unless someone has a very good reason why it should pass through their hands and their possession, they should on no account be allowed to obtain it easily. Certainly not illegally. You know, there are a few heist movies where a heist is made sort of morally, and in most cases also legally. There's trickily, like a good target is a squandered or embezzled pension fund that people have to steal back. They're not stealing really, they're just reappropriating what should have been theirs in the first place. We have to be very careful culturally about how we treat money and the acquisition of money. And in fact, someone whose goal or purpose or locus is to acquire large amounts of money is always going to be morally questioned. That is how it happens in the fantasy, the magical part of our mind. That understands it. Yeah, in reality, well, it's a very real thing for being so not real. Yes. Yes, money is the owner of false evaluators. Yeah, valuations of things, and almost a sort of an end boss. We understand from people who have vast access to vast funds of money is that you get to a certain level, it's all just money, numbers that move from one pile to another pile. Like, you as a person become very abstracted from the movements. And indeed, it is, you are existing in a world where the movements of piles of money from one stack to another, you exist within that context. You wake up in the morning and you kiss your children. Doesn't matter. You are living in that world now. The world where all that matters is where are the money. How would the money piles feel about you today? Are the numbers of stacks of money in the right stacks as far as the general world? That becomes your peer group, a bunch of people who just watch the money move from one pile to another. And really it just takes away all of your, mentally it strips away all of your experience of life in other ways. And I know what you're saying. Some people get very upset about this. They're like, well, what about you? You take a bunch of money. It's like, I've had a bunch of money in the past. And as somebody once said to me, money's for spending. So I spent it. And sometimes I get a rich experience of life. And it didn't need money to give me that rich experience. In fact, most of the rich experiences I've had in my life are supported by money, because we live in a civilization ruled by money. But they weren't anything to do with the money. When you don't have very much of it, you can be a person outside of money, and where it moves in the wider world, that's what we should be aiming for. Scientifically, people have said that. And of course, yes, once time has passed and you look back, on periods of, not having much money. Turns out, like, I've had periods where I've had very, very little money. I've had periods where I've gone around a budget grocery store with a calculator in my hand, and as I add items into my basket or basket trolley, I have added the price from the shelf on to make sure I didn't bust an incredibly tight budget of what we were having for it. I've been there. And looking back on the hindsight, it doesn't really matter. Everything was largely fine. I was okay. I wasn't dying. I found a way. And then other times I've had tons and tons of money. Yeah. And what I've learned is that the more that you have access to at a given time, the more careful you have to be about purchases of a certain character or level. And that really the carefulness is about preserving the quality of your life and not obsessing over, people talk about that thing, money burning a hole in your pocket. That's the point. You want to avoid that idea. Thankfully, there are large amounts of money that, this is the point. This is really weird that you can find a large amount of money lands upon you in some manner or other, and it can all disappear, and then your life can go back to what it was before, and blah 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 blah. You've just spent all of that, and people are always like, and I have nothing to show for that time or whatever it is. And that tells you that when people have so damn much of this stuff that they actually can't get rid of it. I mean, we've talked about, there are people on this planet who could take in cash money from their bank accounts and throw bags of money into a river all day. And at the end of the day, the interest that is accumulated on the money, because there's only so many hours in a day. There's only so much money you can fit in a sack. There's only so many sacks in, 12 hours, 8 to 12 hours that you can throw off a cliff into an incinerator off the side of a bridge, because of the mathematics of currency, you can't actually throw enough away not to be in profit, even though all you've done a day is taken your own money and thrown it into an incinerator off a cliff over a bridge. Yeah? When you get to that amount where you couldn't actually feasibly, physically spend it, where you have to write ritual incantations, contracts, whatever it is, in order to get rid of large enough amounts of money to sustain a loss, that's when the inside of you starts to lose touch with actual consensus reality. And especially this is made particularly difficult for those people because obviously 99% of other people in the same civilization them do not live in that circumstance. And so 99% of people that they meet, and that's ridiculous when you say about that, it's more than 99% of people. Those other people, they just live on a completely different planet in a completely different world. And every interaction that you have with those people is on the basis that they don't really know who you are or what you are, or you've become to them a thing by the nature of the amounts of filthy lucre that you are nestled in, and they to you are just objects in space that pass you. You are insulated from connecting. The only people that you stand a chance of connecting with are other rotten souls, such as yourself. And that's what Eris told me this week. It is hard, though, because at the end of the day you go, well, but having a lot of money would surely... But not surely. It's not surely. It would be a matter for some pondering if you had access, even for a brief time, to the kind of resources beyond. There is a scientifically mandated sort of maximum amount. At the time that the study had done, it was in US dollars, and it was around about $70,000 per annum. Now, of course, inflation has happened since that, and this study is quite old. So you're probably in the region, maybe more like 130. But there is a point at which is like, well, now people stop being happier when they get more money towards that figure, and that's the hump. And it isn't actually very much money per year, relatively speaking. It's a lot to some people. It's a huge amount to some people. There's only very few people who are fortunate to have that amount of money coming in per annum. Yeah? But for those that do, they are in the sweet spot. And then if they were to go over, significantly over that amount, they would find that they just became more and more miserable. Strange stuff, huh? Okay, we're on. We're back. We're with it. We're going to go all out for the another spiritual moment of this evening. My son is hailing me. You obviously stay there off camera, son. Or put Mr. Puzzles over your face. Oh. That also works. Try not to stumble around the room. You just want to give me a hug. There you go. Mr. Puzzles gave me a hug.
I'm gonna see
if you know, you know.
I'm going to see how good it covered my face.
Yeah, it was very good. It was very good.
Yeah, it only covered my eye.
Yeah, it's fine. It was adequate, son. Trust me. Okay, so there we go. Right, so we're going to go on. Reflective Tarot. As always, the pack was shuffled, flipped together 5 times prior to service, and then cut to the level of the card that has been deemed by Eris to be the vibe for this week. We actually the last card that we drew probably had to sustain us for the whole time till now. Maybe. I don't know how this stuff works. Maybe the vibe peters out after 2 days. I don't know. But it's a moment right now for us to reflect upon the symbols on these little pieces of pasteboard here. And this week's, which we are all going to see at the same time right now. It's the 6 of Pentacles. Wow, we get that a lot. By which I mean it's been less than a year, and this is the second time this one has come up. In case you don't know, Pentacles, they are the size. They are the amazing. It's amazing. It's not. It's no. Pentacles are the suit of material security, and I'm not even going to say comfort, not material comfort, but material security, which is weird that we were talking about currency, because currency is very much in there. And the 6 is the number in the tarot, the vibe of the mechanization, the industrialization, in fact, in a Discordian sense, the anaristic expression of that suit energy. So as we can see, we've got a guy here with the sort of the scales, and the implication, and the people with their hands out, and the guy here who is the center, he is the expression of, I am allocating material security to you. So the one thing that we know for certain in the UK is that that guy in the center is not a Labour politician of the current government, because the idea of assuring, even mechanistically and even to a very minimal degree, the non-judgmental material security of the citizens of the United Kingdom is anathema to these people. In fact, it's anathema to a lot of people, because people are quite handy to reach for words such as sponger, layabout, blah, 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 blah. And they can hear as many times as they like the idea of walking a mile in someone else's shoes or whatever it is. And they can go, yeah, I agree with that. You should never judge people without knowing what their circumstances are. And the fact is that I think a goal of society should be to ensure, if possible, that every one of the citizens has a kind of basic level of material security. That their body should be fed, it should be clothed, it should be housed, if possible. That should happen. Maybe they're good people, maybe they're bad people, maybe you agree with their taste in curtains, and maybe you do not. But essentially, people should just be allowed to exist. And yet, in every civilization, in every society, there's always a need for certain people to create an outgroup. Someone who doesn't deserve to exist at a very basic level. Someone who doesn't deserve to have just a baseline of material security. And indeed, it is wider than just fed, clothed, housed. We have had people in our society this week who have made a determination where they have muddled up science and culture. And they have made a cultural determination based on a scientific, what shall we say? What shall we call it? We could call it a fact, feature. Because science goes in a particular direction and says, look, this is how these work. Science is like taking the top off your VCR, or VCR, see, you can tell I'm 50. Oh, God, taking the top off your laptop and looking at the CPU and the motherboard and all of that stuff, and you're confusing the basic sort of uniform construction of that computer with the data that is on the hard drive and the uses that computer is put to. Despite the fact that we have laptops that are used for gaming, laptops that are used for accounting, laptops that are largely used for nefarious purposes, what the software on the laptop does is different. And if you just evaluate all laptops as being, an Apple Mac or a PC, just because that's the sort of physical makeup of the hardware, you have missed the character. If you said, imagine police investigations where you say there's no point looking at this criminal's laptop because it is just a PC or it is just an Apple Mac and there's no more to it than that. Everyone can understand that's nonsense. A criminal's laptop will have a very different content to a 14-year-old boy's laptop. Probably less laptop stickers as well. A performance of identity through hardware. But if you say that the hardware, right, is all there is to it, and it doesn't matter what the stickers on the case are. It doesn't matter what the data held on the hard drive tells you, what kinds of data are being stored inside the physical object. If you say that, well, for a start, there's many court cases that probably would never have come to a satisfactory conclusion. Yeah? But, I mean, apart from anything else, people could see how you were an idiot. So, let's just reflect on that, shall we? Just because hardware comes in a couple of configurations scientifically doesn't mean that the software doesn't express itself in a vast number of different ways. And if you think otherwise, you are an idiot. I like the way I've just done that and not specifically said what I'm talking about at all. It's not the place. This is a Discordian service. Yeah. It can be political, but only if that politics is disguised as sort of weird metaphorical aphorisms. That indeed was the parable of the Apple versus PC architecture. Let's move on. Oh, it is time. Holy cow, sacred cow, of course, is the symbol. I'm just saying holy cow as a joke. Yeah, time for us to dig in. As we know, this time we get some kind of ingestible. We call it an ingestible because it could be solid, it could be liquid, it could be gaseous. It can be flavoured of strawberries, it can be flavoured of barbecue, it can be flavoured of anything. And we're going to take that ingestible. I, myself, have a small red candy tube. And it is going to transubstantiate as we ingest it into the sacred hot dog that we are all enjoined as Discordians to enjoy joyously on a Friday. And it is Friday, so it is time. It is time to ingest your substitutionary ingestible and say with it the SWDP mantra that comes at the time of the weekly sacrament, which goes as follows. I could not find a hot dog, not even with a bun, so I eat this substitutionary ingestible. Sorry, I consume this substitutionary ingestible because devotion, my dears, my loves, comes with fun. Hey, Eris. All hail Discordia. I feel I have been very connected to the vibe this week. Possibly the joy of having a couple of weeks, if not off, then on a very low-key vibe. Now, as we know, if someone does turn up live to the congregation or several someones, whoever, it is your duty as dutiful Discordians to put me off my trail, to put me off my track, to question the nonsense that emerges from my mouth hole. But this week I'm kind of glad that I got to ride the vibe, you know, because I felt really the vibe, the spirit, the Erisian energy emanating from this small pocket of space-time that we find ourselves in right here. So despite the fact that there was no one here to obliterate my train of thought and to push me back into my box and tell me to get knotted, I feel that there has been a worthwhile little twang of vibe there. And if you feel it, if you feel that connection in your asynchronous world where you've taken this little slice of Friday and you've chosen to devote yourself to a little bit of Discordian thought on this tiny audiovisual video captured slice of Friday, then that's worthwhile. And if it makes you feel good, then good. And if it makes you feel uncomfortable, explore that. And that, I think, is all we have for this week's reasonably intense Discordian service. But obviously it is all meant with love. Because when we are allowed chaotically to express freely whatever we want, then it's got to be a good vibe, and we don't really have a name for it, so we call it love. Because we call a lot of other things love as well, and some of them are love, and some of them are arguably not love. But we're working on it. Maybe someday we will have an actual psychoverbal expression, syllabic expression that describes love in such a way that those who hear it know instantly what it is and what it means. But we don't. Not right now. All we have is love. But, you know, never mind currency. If what we have is love, that's good enough, right? Take it easy, disco kids. See you next time.